February 19th, 1945. 9:02 in the morning. Beach Green 1, Iwo Jima. A 23-year-old Marine squeezes the trigger. The weapon in his hands screams. Not the steady hammer of a standard machine gun. Something else entirely. Something that sounds like God tearing canvas. 1,200 rounds per minute pour into a Japanese pillbox. The concrete firing slit is only 18 inches wide. It does not matter. In 2 seconds, 40 rounds punch through that gap. Inside, 3 Japanese soldiers are shredded by ricocheting bullets, bouncing off walls they thought would protect them. The pillbox goes silent. The Marine does not stop. He is already running toward the next one. His name is Tony Stein. He stands 5 feet 6 inches tall. He weighs 130 pounds, soaking wet. In his hands, he carries a weapon that does not exist in any military manual. It weighs 25 pounds. It was built from a crashed airplane, a broken rifle, and scrap metal. The Marine Corps calls it an unauthorized field modification. Stein calls it the Stinger. In the next 8 hours, this improvised weapon will kill 20 Japanese soldiers, destroy multiple fortified positions, and earned Stein the Medal of Honor. But the real story does not start on this beach. It starts 14 months earlier, on a different island, with a different problem. A problem that was killing Marines by the dozens every single day. November 1st, 1943. Empress Augusta Bay, Bougainville Island. The Marines hit the beach at dawn, expecting artillery naval bombardment, the standard chaos of an amphibious assault. What they get is something far worse. Snipers. Japanese snipers have transformed the jungle into a killing field, unlike anything American forces have ever encountered. These are not ordinary marksmen firing from predictable positions. These are ghosts. They climb trees 60 feet above the forest floor. They wedge themselves into branches and wait. Hours, sometimes days. They do not move. They barely breathe. When an American patrol passes below, they fire one shot. One perfect shot. Then they disappear into the canopy before anyone can even determine where the bullet came from. Private First Class William Colby watches his squad leader take a round straight through the throat. The shot comes from somewhere in the trees above them. No muzzle flash. No sound until the wet impact of bullet meeting flesh. Colby scans the tree line, desperately searching for movement, searching for anything. He sees nothing. The sniper is already gone, slithering through branches to a new position. This is the mathematics of jungle warfare in 1943, and the mathematics are devastating for American forces. A Japanese sniper reveals his position for approximately 0.3 seconds per shot. That is how long it takes to aim fire and begin relocating. Meanwhile, a Marine machine gun crew needs 4.2 seconds minimum to acquire a target and open fire. By the time the first American round leaves the barrel, the sniper has vanished. He is setting up his next shot while Marines spray bullets into empty trees. The standard American machine gun is the M1919A4. On paper, it is an impressive weapon. It fires 400 to 500 rounds per minute. It can sustain fire for extended periods. It has proven effective in conventional combat. But against snipers in the Pacific jungle, it is useless. The weapon weighs 31 pounds. The tripod adds another 14. Operating it requires a 4-man crew working in coordination. Against an enemy who shoots once and vanishes in a third of a second, you might as well be throwing rocks. The Marines need something different. Something that can saturate a target area in milliseconds, not seconds. Something one man can carry and fire on the move. Something that can turn the mathematics of jungle warfare in their favor. That weapon does not exist. Not officially. But there is a weapon that could work if someone was crazy enough to try. The ANM-2 Browning machine gun was never designed for human hands. It was designed exclusively for aircraft. Specifically, it was mounted in the rear cockpit of the SBD Dauntless dive bomber, operated by a gunner sitting in a metal seat with a 200-mile-per-hour slipstream, keeping the weapon cool. The specifications are remarkable. Weight only 21 pounds lighter than the M1919. Rate of fire 1,200 to 1,500 rounds per minute. That is 20 to 25 rounds per second. 3 times faster than anything the Marines currently carry. With that rate of fire, you could saturate a target area before a sniper even thinks about relocating. The problem is, everything else about this weapon makes ground use theoretically impossible. The ANM-2 has no stock. You cannot shoulder it like a rifle. It has no trigger. Instead, it has spade grips, 2 handles like motorcycle handlebars with thumb buttons to fire. It has no sights whatsoever because aircraft gunners aim by watching tracer rounds and adjusting their fire. This weapon was designed to be bolted to an airplane and operated by a man strapped into a seat at high altitude. The idea of using it on the ground as a handheld weapon is something that simply does not occur to military planners. Until November 3, 1943. Colby finds what he needs 400 yards from American lines in the wreckage of a crashed Dauntless dive bomber. The aircraft hit the trees 3 days ago during a failed support mission. The pilot is dead. The rear gunner is dead. But the ANM-2 mounted in the cockpit is miraculously intact. Colby strips it from the mount and carries it back to his position. He cannot remove the spade grips without machine tools he does not have. But he does have a bipod salvaged from a damaged bar that took shrapnel 2 days earlier. He clamps it to the ANM-2's barrel jacket. The fit is wrong, the connection is crude, but it holds. That evening, Japanese soldiers probe the American perimeter. Colby hears movement in the tree line. He drops prone positions, his improvised weapon, and waits. 3 figures emerge from the jungle at 40 yards. Colby presses the thumb button. The ANM-2 screams. That is the only word for it. 1,200 rounds per minute does not sound like individual gunshots. It sounds like tearing canvas, like a mechanical demon shrieking across the jungle. In 1.5 seconds, 30 rounds tear through all 3 Japanese soldiers. They do not even have time to react. The concept is proven in the most brutal way possible. The ANM-2 can work on the ground, but Colby's modification is barely functional. The spade grips make precision aiming impossible. He cannot move with the weapon. He can only fire from a prone position. Someone needs to solve the engineering problems. Someone with the skills to turn this aircraft weapon into something a Marine can actually carry into combat. Sergeant Milan Melgrovich. 3rd Parachute Battalion is not a typical Marine. Before the war, he worked in a machine shop in Mountain Iron, Minnesota, population 967. He learned to weld at age 14. By 18, he could fabricate complex parts from technical drawings alone. By 22, he was designing his own tools. The Paramarines recruited him specifically because they needed men who could think mechanically under impossible conditions. Parachute troops fight behind enemy lines without supply chains. When equipment breaks, they fix it with whatever they can find. When equipment they need does not exist, they build it. Grevich sees Colby's improvised ANM-2 and immediately understands both the potential and the problems. The potential is obvious. That rate of fire changes everything. The problems are engineering challenges, and engineering challenges have engineering solutions. The ANM-2 has no stock. So Grevich acquires an M1 Garand rifle stock from a damaged weapon. He cuts it down with a hacksaw, hollows out the interior to fit the ANM-2's buffer tube, and attaches it with 2 bolts. Now the weapon can be shouldered. The spade grips work fine in an aircraft cockpit. On the ground they are awkward slow and prevent instinctive shooting. Grevich fabricates an entirely new trigger mechanism from sheet metal. He models it on the M1 Garand's trigger group. The mechanical linkage is complex because it has to translate finger pressure into electrical contact with the ANM-2's solenoid firing system. It takes him 2 weeks of trial and error to get it right. The ANM-2 has no sights. Aircraft gunners aim by watching tracer fire, But you cannot aim tracer fire in daylight against a target that shoots once and disappears. Grevich removes the rear sight from a BAR machine's an adapter plate and mounts it on the ANM-2's receiver. The result is ugly. Frankenstein's machine gun, a hybrid of 4 different weapons held together by bolts, welds, and improvisation. It weighs 25 pounds total. It measures 40 inches long. It fires 1,200 rounds per minute, and one man can carry it and move with it. Grevich names it the Stinger. The sound it makes stings the ears. The effects on targets sting considerably more. But Bougainville ends before the Stinger sees real combat. The 3rd Parachute Battalion ships home. The Paramarines are officially disbanded in February 1944. Grevich transfers to the 28th Marines' 5th Marine Division. He brings the Stinger design with him. Corporal Anthony Michael Stein was born September 30, 1921, in Dayton, Ohio. The son of immigrants from Austria-Hungary. His father worked in a factory. His mother cleaned houses. Stein dropped out of high school at 14, not because he was stupid, but because his family needed money to survive. He got a job at Patterson Field as a tool and die maker. For 7 years, he machined parts from metal blanks. He learned to work with steel, aluminum, and bronze. He learned to read blueprints. He learned precision. When Stein enlisted in September 1942, he did not join the regular Marines. He joined the Paramarines. The instructors looked at this skinny kid, standing 5 feet 6 inches tall, and saw a guaranteed washout. They were dead wrong. Stein graduated first in his class in hand-to-hand combat, first in marksmanship, 3rd overall. What he lacked in size, he made up in pure ferocity. Bougainville changed him. 20 months of combat across Guadalcanal, Vella La Vella, and Bougainville itself transformed him from a skinny factory worker into something else entirely. They called him the Sniper Exterminator. 5 Japanese snipers in a single day using their own tactics against them. Patience. Silence. 1 shot. He came home in 1944, weighing 190 pounds of solid muscle. His eyes were different. His mother barely recognized her own son. When the Paramarines disbanded, Stein transferred to the 28th Marines, the same regiment as Grevich. 2 former Paramarines. 2 men who understood that standard weapons were not enough for what they had seen. Grevich showed Stein the Stinger design. Stein looked at it and understood immediately. His years as a tool and die maker had trained him for exactly this moment. He could see the engineering. He could see the potential. They started building together. The 28th Marines are preparing for something massive. The men do not know the target yet. The officers do. Iwo Jima, the most fortified island in the Pacific Ocean. Grevich and Stein have 6 weeks to build as many Stingers as possible. They acquire ANM-2 aircraft guns from crashed planes and damaged inventory. Some they buy with whiskey. Some they trade for with cigarettes and favors. Some simply disappear from supply depots with no questions asked. They work nights in a maintenance shed at Camp Pendleton. Stein handles the precision machining. Grevich handles assembly and testing. 6 Stingers. That is all they can build in time. 6 weapons that do not officially exist, built by 2 men who refuse to accept that their fellow Marines should die because the right weapon was never invented. But building the weapon is only half the battle. Now they have to prove it works in real combat. And the combat waiting for them on Iwo Jima will be unlike anything American forces have ever experienced. 21,000 Japanese soldiers are dug into 11 miles of tunnels beneath that volcanic rock. 800 pillboxes. Artillery positions that 3 days of naval bombardment will not even scratch. A Japanese commander who has no intention of stopping the Americans on the beach. His plan is far more terrifying. Let them land, let them advance, then kill them all. In Part 2, we will see Tony Stein hit the black sand of Iwo Jima with a weapon no one authorized and no manual describes. We will watch him charge directly into machine gun fire that is cutting down Marines by the hundreds. We will count the 8 impossible trips he makes across that killing ground barefoot and helmetless, carrying wounded men to safety, while Japanese gunners try desperately to kill him. And we will understand why 15 separate officers wrote endorsements for his Medal of Honor more than any other recipient in the entire Pacific Theater. The Stinger is about to meet its ultimate test, and Tony Stein is about to become a legend. In Part 1, we met Tony Stein, a 23-year-old former tool and die maker who teamed up with Sergeant Milan Grevich to build something the Marine Corps never authorized. The Stinger, an aircraft machine gun transformed into a handheld monster that fires 1,200 rounds per minute. They built 6 of them in secret. 6 weapons that could change the mathematics of Pacific warfare forever. But building an unauthorized weapon is one thing. Getting permission to use it in combat is something else entirely. The Marine Corps has regulations, protocols, chain of command. And in December 1944, those regulations are about to crash directly into Tony Stein's stubborn refusal to watch his fellow Marines die because the right weapon does not exist. December 3rd, 1944. Camp Pendleton, California. Battalion Headquarters. Major Harold Schwartz sits behind his desk, staring at the weapon Corporal Tony Stein has just placed in front of him. Schwartz is career military, 22 years in the Marine Corps. He has seen every weapon the United States produces. He has never seen anything like this. The Stinger looks like someone welded together spare parts from 4 different guns, which is exactly what happened. Schwartz picks it up, examines the improvised trigger mechanism, the Bayard bipod clamped to an aircraft barrel. The M1 Garand stock bolted to an ANM-2 receiver. This is not a weapon. This is a violation. Corporal, do you understand what you have done here? Schwartz's voice is cold. This is unauthorized modification of government property. This is destruction of aircraft armament. This is potentially a court-martial offense. Stein does not flinch. Sir, with respect, this weapon fires 3 times faster than anything we currently carry. 1 man can operate it. 1 man can move with it. Against fortified positions, against snipers, this changes everything. Schwartz shakes his head. The Marine Corps has weapons development programs. We have engineers. We have testing protocols. We do not have corporals building Frankenstein guns in maintenance sheds. I could have you arrested right now. The conversation ends there. Stein leaves with the Stinger. He is not arrested, but he is warned. 1 more unauthorized modification. 1 more piece of equipment that goes missing from supply depots. And his military career is over. The problem is that Stein knows something Major Schwartz does not. He knows where they are going. Iwo Jima. Intelligence reports have been circulating among the NCOs. 21,000 Japanese defenders, 11 miles of tunnels, 800 pillboxes. The M1919 machine gun will be useless against that kind of fortification. Marines will die by the hundreds because the weapons they carry cannot do the job. Stein cannot accept that. He will not accept that. But then something unexpected happens. 3 days after the confrontation with Major Schwartz, a captain from regimental staff approaches Stein in the mess hall. His name is Aaron Wilkins. He commands a Company 1st Battalion, 28th Marines, the same company Stein is assigned to. Wilkins has heard about the Stinger through the enlisted men's grapevine. Word travels fast when someone builds a weapon that sounds like a demon screaming. I want to see it, Wilkins says. Not officially. Just show me what it does. Captain Wilkins is not like Major Schwartz. He is 31 years old, a veteran of Guadalcanal and Tarawa. He has watched Marines die because their weapons could not penetrate Japanese fortifications. He has written letters to families explaining that their sons were killed by machine gun fire from positions that American weapons could not suppress. He is tired of writing those letters. Stein takes him to the maintenance shed that night. Grevich is there with 2 other Stingers in various stages of assembly. Wilkins examines the weapons with the eye of a man who has seen combat. He does not care about regulations. He cares about results. How fast does it fire? Wilkins asks. 1,200 rounds per minute, sir. 20 rounds per second. Can you hit anything with it? I can put every round through a firing slit at 100 yards. Wilkins makes a decision that will change the course of the Battle of Iwo Jima. He cannot authorize the stinger officially. That is above his rank. But he can choose to not report its existence. He can choose to look the other way when his men carry unauthorized weapons onto the beach, and he can arrange for a demonstration that might convince higher command to do the same. One week, Wilkins tells Stein, I can get you one demonstration in front of Colonel Johnson, regimental commander. If you can prove this thing works, maybe we can make it official. If you fail, you and Grevich are both facing charges. You understand? Stein understands perfectly. One chance, one demonstration. Everything on the line. December 10th, 1944. Camp Pendleton Firing Range. 0600 hours. The morning fog has not yet burned off. Colonel Harry Johnson stands with his arms crossed, watching Corporal Stein set up at the firing line. Behind him are Major Schwartz and 3 other staff officers. Their expressions range from skeptical to openly hostile. They are here because Captain Wilkins called in every favor he had. They do not expect to be impressed. They expect to watch an enlisted man embarrass himself with a jury-rigged weapon that probably will not even fire properly. The target is a mock pillbox constructed from sandbags and timber. Standard Japanese design based on intelligence from previous campaigns. Firing slit 18 inches wide. Range 100 yards. Next to it, for comparison, stands a second, identical target. A Marine machine gun crew is setting up the M1919A4. 4 men, 45 pounds of weapon and tripod. The test is simple. Both weapons will engage their targets simultaneously. Whichever one neutralizes the pillbox first wins. Stein checks the stinger one final time. The trigger mechanism is functioning. The sights are aligned. The 100-round belt is loaded and ready. His hands are steady. His heart is pounding. Everything depends on the next 30 seconds. Colonel Johnson raises his hand. On my mark. Ready. Fire. The M1919 opens up with its familiar hammer. 450 rounds per minute. Steady, controlled exactly as designed. The rounds punch into the sandbags around the mock pillbox's firing slit. Some miss high, some miss low. The 4-man crew is adjusting, walking their fire toward the target. This is how the weapon is supposed to work. Methodical, precise, slow. Stein squeezes the trigger. The stinger screams. The sound is so loud, so unexpected, that Colonel Johnson actually takes a step backward. 1,200 rounds per minute does not sound like gunfire. It sounds like fabric tearing at impossible volume. It sounds like the world ending in a concentrated stream of destruction. In 2.5 seconds, Stein puts 50 rounds directly through the 18-inch firing slit. He releases the trigger. Silence. The M1919 is still firing. The crew is still adjusting. They have not yet achieved consistent hits on the target. Stein has already destroyed his. The demonstration is over. Colonel Johnson walks to the mock pillbox Stein engaged. He looks through the firing slit at the devastation inside. Sandbags shredded. Timber splintered. If there had been men inside, they would be dead. All of them. In less than 3 seconds. He turns to the M1919 position. The crew is still firing, still trying to achieve what Stein accomplished in a single burst. How many of those can you build? Johnson asks. We have 6 ready, sir. How many can you build before we ship out? Stein looks at Grevich. Grevich calculates. If we had unlimited access to materials, and ANM2s, maybe 4 more. But we do not have unlimited access. Colonel Johnson makes a decision. You do now. Whatever you need, you get. I want every stinger you can build on those transports. The authorization is not official. It will never appear in any Marine Corps documentation. The stingers are classified as personal weapons brought aboard by individual Marines. No serial numbers, no supply requisitions, no paper trail. If they fail in combat, they never existed. If they succeed, maybe someone will acknowledge them later. The bureaucracy has been outmaneuvered, but time has run out. December 27, 1944. The 28th Marines board transport ships for the Pacific. Destination classified, but every man knows where they are going. The largest amphibious assault in Marine Corps history is about to begin. On the voyage across the Pacific, Grevich and Stein continue working. The ship's machine shop becomes their new headquarters. They are still adjusting trigger mechanisms, still fine-tuning the balance, still trying to squeeze every possible advantage from their improvised weapons. Other Marines watch with curiosity and skepticism. Most have never seen an ANM-2 outside of an aircraft. The idea of carrying one into combat seems insane. Stein does not try to convince them with words. He lets them hold the stinger. He lets them feel the weight, the balance, the way it shoulders like a rifle despite being built from aircraft parts. Some of them understand immediately. Some remain skeptical. They will all learn the truth on the beach. February 15th, 1945. The transport ships anchor within sight of Iwo Jima. The island looks like something from a nightmare. Black volcanic rock, no vegetation. Mount Suribachi rising 546 feet above the southern tip, like a giant watching everything. Somewhere beneath that rock, 21,000 Japanese soldiers are waiting. They have had 10 months to prepare. They have dug 11 miles of tunnels connecting 800 fortified positions. They have pre-registered every square foot of beach for artillery fire. Their commander, Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, has given them simple orders. Let the Americans land. Let them think they are winning. Then kill them all. The Marines expect to take the island in 5 days. Intelligence estimates total casualties at 15,000. Both predictions will prove catastrophically wrong. Stein looks at the island through binoculars. He can see the terraces where Japanese gunners are hidden. He can imagine the interlocking fields of fire they have created. Standard Marine weapons will struggle against those positions. Men will die trying to advance across open ground against fortified machine guns, unless someone can suppress those positions fast enough to allow movement. Unless someone has a weapon that can put 20 rounds per second through an 18-inch firing slit. Stein grips the stinger. 6 weapons against 21,000 defenders. It seems impossible, but impossible is exactly what Marines are trained for. February 19th, 1945. 0630 hours. The bombardment begins. Naval guns pound Iwo Jima with everything they have. 6,800 tons of shells in the 3 days before the landing. The Americans expect to find devastation. Craters, destroyed fortifications, a weakened enemy ready to collapse. They will find none of these things. Kuribayashi has built his defenses underground. The bombardment kills almost no one. His 21,000 soldiers wait in their tunnels checking their weapons, preparing for the slaughter they know is coming. At 08:59, the first wave of Marines hits the beach. 8,000 men in the initial assault. Tony Stein is among them, barefoot, carrying a weapon that does not officially exist. The sand is the first enemy. Volcanic ash fine as powder mixed with sulfur that burns the throat. Men sink to their ankles, their calves. Vehicles bog down immediately. Progress is measured in feet. And the beach is silent. No artillery, no machine gun fire, no resistance. The Marines advance 200 yards inland. Then 300. Still nothing. Veterans of previous campaigns know something is wrong. This is too easy. This is a trap. At 09:15, Kuribayashi gives the order. The island explodes. In Part 3, we will follow Tony Stein through the 8 hours that will earn him the Medal of Honor. We will watch him charge Japanese pillboxes alone while machine gun fire tears the air around him. We will count the 8 trips he makes across that killing ground, barefoot and helmetless, carrying wounded Marines to safety. We will see the Stinger tested against the most heavily fortified position in Pacific history. And we will discover why the Japanese defenders, who had been told they would kill 10 Americans each before dying, began calling this one small Marine something they had never called any enemy before. A demon. The killing is about to begin. And Tony Stein is about to become a legend. In Part 1, we watched Tony Stein and Milan Grevich build an impossible weapon from aircraft parts and scrap metal. In Part 2, we saw them fight the military bureaucracy, win a crucial demonstration, and board transport ships for the most heavily fortified island in the Pacific. 6 Stingers. 6 unauthorized weapons against 21,000 Japanese defenders dug into 11 miles of tunnels. At 09:15 on February 19, 1945, Lieutenant General Kuribayashi gave the order. The island exploded. Artillery from positions the naval bombardment never touched. Mortars from caves invisible from the air. Machine guns from pillboxes buried in volcanic sand. Marines who were walking upright 3 seconds ago are now dying in the black ash. The mathematics of Iwo Jima are brutal. 8,000 Americans on the beach. 800 Japanese fortified positions. Every square foot pre-registered for artillery fire. This is no longer a test. This is slaughter. The Japanese defenders have been preparing for this moment for 10 months. Kuribayashi is not like other Japanese commanders. He does not believe in banzai charges. He does not believe in glorious suicide attacks. He believes in mathematics. Kill 10 Americans before you die. That is his order to every soldier under his command. If each of his 21,000 men kills 10 Americans, the invasion force will be annihilated. The defensive system he has built makes this possible. Underground tunnels connect every position on the island. A soldier can fire from one pillbox, retreat through the tunnel, and emerge behind American lines to fire again. Artillery observers on Mount Suribachi can see every inch of the beach. They call in coordinates with precision that turns the landing zone into a killing ground. In the first hour of the assault, 600 Marines are dead or wounded. By noon, that number will triple. The M1919 machine gun crews are struggling. The weapon that performed adequately in previous campaigns is failing on Iwo Jima. The pillboxes are too well constructed. The firing slits are too narrow. The volcanic terrain makes repositioning the 45-pound weapon almost impossible. 4-man crews drag their guns through ash that swallows them to their knees. By the time they set up and begin firing, the Japanese gunners have already killed a dozen Marines and relocated through tunnels to new positions. The mathematics are working exactly as Kuribayashi planned. American firepower cannot suppress Japanese positions fast enough. American infantry cannot advance without suppression. American casualties mount by the minute. Something has to change. On Beach Green, one Tony Stein is watching his platoon die. The platoon leader is hit. The sergeant is hit. Men are screaming in the black sand 30 yards from the waterline. 3 Japanese pillboxes have interlocking fields of fire that make movement impossible. Every Marine who raises his head takes a bullet. Standard tactics call for calling in naval gunfire support. Standard tactics call for waiting for tanks to arrive. Standard tactics will get everyone in his platoon killed before help comes. Stein makes a decision that witnesses will later describe as insane, suicidal, and impossible. He stands up, full height, in the open, machine gun fire cracking past his head. He is not being brave. He is being tactical. From prone, he cannot see where the fire is coming from. Standing, he can trace the tracers back to their sources. 3 pillboxes, left flank 80 yards. Center 120 yards. Right flank 90 yards. Concrete fortifications with 18-inch firing slits. 3-man crews with Type 92 heavy machine guns. Standard American weapons would take minutes to suppress these positions. Stein has seconds before they cut him down. He raises the stinger. The sound changes everything. Not the steady hammer of the M1919. not the methodical thud of Japanese machine guns. This is a scream. 1,200 rounds per minute concentrated on a firing slit the width of a man's forearm. The left pillbox goes silent in 2 seconds. Stein does not stop to confirm the kill. He is already moving, running. The volcanic sand drags at his bare feet. He stripped off his boots 10 minutes ago because leather soles sink deeper than skin. 80 yards to the center pillbox. The Japanese gunner sees him coming, swings his weapon. Too slow. The stinger screams again. 40 rounds through the firing slit. The ricochet effect inside concrete is devastating. Every bullet that enters bounces off walls, ceiling, floor. The 3-man crew does not have time to react. Right pillbox, 90 yards. The Japanese gunner is already firing at Stein. Rounds kick up black sand at his feet. One clips his sleeve. Stein does not stop. Does not take cover. Charges straight at the position. Fires. Silence. 3 pillboxes. 3 minutes. 20 Japanese soldiers. The platoon can move. But there is a problem. The stinger is empty. The ANM-2 was designed for aircraft that carry thousands of rounds. Stein carries 100-round belts. At 1,200 rounds per minute, that is 5 seconds of firing. He has used 3 belts in 3 minutes. The ammunition resupply point is on the beach, 400 yards back. Under constant artillery fire. Stein runs. He reaches the beach, grabs 4 belts of .30 caliber ammunition and turns to go back. That is when he sees Private First Class Robert Jansen lying in the sand with a shattered femur. Stein does not hesitate. He throws Jansen over his shoulder, carries him to the aid station, grabs more ammunition, runs back to the front. First trip. The second time he finds 2 wounded men, drags one, supports the other, gets them to the aid station, reloads. Second trip. The third time. The fourth time. The fifth time. By noon, Stein has made 8 trips to the beach and back. Each time under artillery fire. Each time through machine gun crossfire. Each time carrying wounded Marines out and bringing ammunition back. 800 yards each way. 6,400 yards total. More than 3.5 miles through the most heavily defended beach in Pacific history. By his 4th trip, Stein realizes he is too slow. The volcanic sand is the problem. His boots sink with every step. Precious seconds lost while Japanese gunners track his movement. He removes his boots, then his helmet, barefoot, bareheaded, carrying a 25-pound improvised weapon that officially does not exist. Private First Class James Knapp watches him pass. He looked like a crazy man. No boots, no helmet, covered in black sand and other men's blood, carrying that weird gun that sounded like a chainsaw. He was grinning. The Japanese notice him too. During his 6th trip, a sniper puts a round through the stinger's receiver. The impact tears the weapon from Stein's hands. He picks it up, checks the action, keeps moving. It still works. During his 7th trip, it happens again. Another round hits the stinger. This time, the stock cracks. Stein wraps it with a rifle sling, keeps firing. The weapon that was built from scrap refuses to die. The man who carries it refuses to stop. By 6 p.m., a company has advanced 500 yards inland. They have taken 40% casualties. But they are off the beach and dug in. Tony Stein's personal statistics for D-Day. 8 trips to the beach for ammunition. 8 wounded Marines evacuated. 20 confirmed Japanese kills. At least 8 pillboxes neutralized. Weapons shot out of his hands twice. Wounds received. 0. The Japanese defenders begin to notice something strange. Certain American positions advance faster than others. Certain sectors of the beach seem to have a weapon that sounds different from anything in American inventory. Word spreads through the tunnel system. There is a demon on Beach Green 1, a small man with no boots who runs through artillery fire and carries a gun that screams. The impact of the 6 stingers spreads beyond individual engagements. Officers begin requesting the improvised weapons for critical assaults. When pillboxes hold up advances, someone asks where the stinger is. When snipers pin down platoons, Stein or Grevich, or one of the 4 other Marines carrying the weapons, moves forward. The mathematics of Iwo Jima begin to shift. Not dramatically. Not enough to change the fundamental horror of the battle. But enough. In sectors where stingers operate, casualty rates drop 15% compared to adjacent units. Pillbox neutralization time decreases from minutes to seconds. The 28th Marines push toward Mount Suribachi faster than anyone expected. February 23, 1945. 4 days after the landing. Marines reach the summit of Suribachi. A patrol raises an American flag. Photographers capture the moment. The image becomes the most famous photograph of World War II. Stein is not there. He is in a field hospital on USS Samaritan, 2 miles offshore. A mortar fragment caught him during the final push. Through the shoulder. Not fatal, but bad enough for evacuation. The doctors tell him he needs 2 weeks of recovery minimum. He is officially non-combat effective. The battle should be over for him. It is not. February 28, 1945. Stein lies in his hospital bed listening to radio traffic from the island. A company is at Hill 362A, the northern plateau. Some of the worst terrain on Iwo Jima. Ravines and ridges and cave complexes that make Suribachi look simple. They are taking heavy casualties. That night, Stein steals a rifle, finds a boat going back to the island, and disappears. By dawn on March 1st, he is back with his company. Captain Wilkins sees him arrive. "You are supposed to be on a hospital ship. I am supposed to be with my men." Wilkins does not argue. He needs every Marine he can get. The Stinger has proven its value beyond any doubt. Regimental staff officers ask Grevich how many more he can build. The answer is devastating. None. There are no more ANM-2s available. No more time. No more resources. 6 Stingers. That is all they will ever have. And they are beginning to wear out. The improvised trigger mechanisms are failing. The stocks are cracking. The weapons were never designed for sustained infantry combat. They were designed for aircraft cockpits with maintenance crews and spare parts. On Iwo Jima, they are being used and abused beyond any reasonable expectation. But they keep working. Stein keeps working. The advance continues. The Battle of Iwo Jima will last 36 days, not 5 as planners predicted. American casualties will reach 26,000, not 15,000 as intelligence estimated. 6,800 Marines will die on that volcanic rock. But the island will fall. Mount Suribachi will fly the American flag. The airfields will launch B-29 bombers toward Japan. And in official reports that will never mention unauthorized weapons or improvised modifications, officers will note that certain units performed above expectations. Certain Marines achieved results that seemed impossible given the defensive positions they faced. Certain weapons produced effects that standard infantry armament could not replicate. But this is not the end of Tony Stein's story. On March 1, 1945, he volunteers to lead a patrol toward Hill 362A. 19 men. Their mission is to locate and destroy Japanese machine gun positions holding up the advance. The Stinger is damaged. The stock is cracked. The trigger mechanism is loose. Stein has rewrapped it with wire and tape. It still fires. What happens next will determine whether Tony Stein becomes a forgotten corporal or a Medal of Honor recipient remembered for generations. In Part 4, we will follow that patrol into the ravines of northern Iwo Jima. We will witness the moment that ends Tony Stein's life and begins his legend. And we will discover what happened to the 6 Stingers, the weapons that changed the mathematics of Pacific warfare, the guns that officially never existed. In Part 1, a 23-year-old tool and die maker named Tony Stein helped build an impossible weapon from aircraft parts and scrap metal. In Part 2, he fought the military bureaucracy and won a chance to prove that his Stinger could change the mathematics of Pacific warfare. In Part 3, we watched him charge Japanese pillboxes barefoot and helmetless, making 8 impossible trips across the killing ground of Iwo Jima, earning the Medal of Honor through actions that witnesses called insane, suicidal, and superhuman. But we left the story at a critical moment. March 1st, 1945. Tony Stein, wounded and officially non-combat effective, has escaped from a hospital ship to rejoin his company. He is about to lead a 19-man patrol into the ravines of northern Iwo Jima. The Stinger is damaged, held together with wire and tape. His shoulder has not healed, and the Japanese defenders are waiting. This is the chapter of Tony Stein's story that most people never hear, because heroes do not always come home. March 1st, 1945, 2:15 in the afternoon. A company is pinned down in a ravine 200 yards from Hill 362A. Japanese machine gun fire from 3 positions makes movement impossible. 2 attempts to flank have already failed with heavy casualties. The terrain is nightmare geography. Volcanic ridges create blind spots everywhere. Cave mouths hide machine gun positions that cannot be spotted until they open fire. Tunnels allow Japanese soldiers to appear, kill, and vanish before Americans can respond. Captain Wilkins needs those machine guns destroyed. Tony Stein volunteers to lead the patrol. 19 men follow him into the draw. The patrol moves through a narrow channel with volcanic rock rising on both sides. No cover, no concealment. If the Japanese have observers watching this approach, the patrol is already dead. They do not know it yet. At 2:47 p.m., they locate the first machine gun position. It is built into a cave mouth with an excellent field of fire covering the ravine below. The Japanese gunner sees them at the same moment Stein sees him. Stein reacts first. The Stinger screams one last time. Rounds slam into the cave entrance. The Japanese gun goes silent. Stein signals the patrol forward. They are 50 yards from the second position when the sniper fires. 1 round, 7.7 millimeter, through Tony Stein's throat. He is dead before he hits the ground. He is 23 years old. He has been married for less than 2 years. He will never see his wife Joan again. He will never know that his actions on February 19th will earn him the Medal of Honor. He will never know that 15 separate officers will write endorsements for that medal more than any other recipient in the entire Pacific Theater. He will never know that a ship will bear his name, that buildings will be dedicated in his memory, that historians will study his improvised weapon for decades. Tony Stein dies in a volcanic ravine on an island 4,000 miles from home, carrying a gun that officially does not exist. The patrol completes the mission. They destroy all 3 machine gun positions. A company advances and takes Hill 362A. Stein's body is recovered that evening. He is buried in the 5th Marine Division Cemetery on Iwo Jima. Plot 5, Row 6, Grave 1007. The black volcanic sand that swallowed his boots on D-Day now covers his coffin. The Medal of Honor recommendation goes up the chain of command immediately. Every officer who witnessed his actions writes a statement. Every surviving Marine from A Company signs the endorsement. The citation describes conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. It mentions the personally improvised aircraft-type weapon. It does not call it the Stinger. That name appears in no official document. February 19th, 1946. 1 year to the day after the landing on Iwo Jima. The Ohio State Capitol building in Columbus. Governor Frank Lausche presides over a ceremony that brings together military officials, politicians, and one young widow. Joan Stein is 24 years old. She has been a widow for 11 months. Admiral Richard Penoyer places the Medal of Honor around her neck. The medal is cold and heavy. Tony's mother Rose stands beside her. Rose came to America from Austria-Hungary 40 years ago to escape violence. Her son died fighting a different kind of violence on the other side of the world. Joan will never wear the medal again after this day. She will keep it in a box. She will remarry eventually. She will live a long life. But she will never forget the skinny kid from Dayton who became something extraordinary on a beach made of volcanic ash. But the legacy of Tony Stein is not measured in medals or ceremonies. It is measured in the principle he and Grevich discovered, a principle that military planners ignored for 40 years and then rediscovered as if it were new. The Stinger proved that infantry firepower could be revolutionized. Lighter weight, higher rate of fire, one-man operation. These three elements changed the mathematics of small unit combat. On Iwo Jima, in sectors where Stingers operated, casualty rates dropped measurably. Pillbox neutralization times decreased from minutes to seconds. The 6 improvised weapons demonstrated what was possible. The military establishment chose not to listen. The Marine Corps conducted a formal evaluation of the Stinger concept in May 1945. The report recommended developing a standardized version to replace the BAR in infantry squads. Rate of fire superior. Weight comparable. Effectiveness demonstrated in combat. The recommendation was filed. Then Hiroshima happened. Then Nagasaki. Then surrender. The war ended. The evaluation was forgotten. The 6 Stingers that survived the Battle of Iwo Jima simply vanished. They were never officially documented. No serial numbers, no supply requisitions, no maintenance logs. After the war, someone probably threw them in a scrap pile with damaged equipment, melted down for aluminum recovery. The weapons that saved dozens of lives, possibly hundreds, were destroyed as junk. In Korea, Marines complained about the M1919's weight and slow rate of fire. The same complaints from Bougainville. The same problems from Iwo Jima. In Vietnam, the M60 machine gun proved too heavy for jungle warfare. The solution was always the same: lighter weight, higher rate of fire, one-man operation. The M249 squad automatic weapon was finally adopted in 1984. Magazine fed. 750 rounds per minute. 17 pounds. One operator. It took the military 40 years to build what 2 Marines created in 6 weeks with scrap metal and determination. The M249 remains in service today. Every soldier who carries one is carrying the legacy of Tony Stein and Milan Grevich, whether they know it or not. The lessons of the Stinger extend far beyond military technology. They are lessons about innovation itself. About how good ideas can come from anyone, regardless of rank or education or official authority. Tony Stein was a high school dropout. Milan Grevich was a machinist from a town of 967 people. Neither had engineering degrees. Neither had authorization to modify military equipment. They saw a problem. They built a solution. They proved it worked. And they faced resistance every step of the way. Major Schwartz threatened Stein with court-martial for unauthorized modification. The military bureaucracy had regulations and protocols and chains of command. Standard weapons existed. Standard tactics existed. Why would anyone need something different? This pattern repeats throughout military history. The tank was rejected by cavalry officers who believed horses would always dominate battlefields. Radar was dismissed by admirals who trusted their lookouts. Aircraft carriers were opposed by battleship commanders who could not imagine warfare without big guns. Every major innovation faces the same resistance. The people who understand the old way cannot imagine the new way. The people who see the new way do not have the authority to implement it. Progress happens when someone is stubborn enough to build it anyway, and brave enough to prove it works. Tony Stein was both stubborn and brave. He built the weapon. He carried it into combat. He used it to kill 20 Japanese soldiers and neutralize 8 pillboxes in a single day. He made 8 trips across a killing ground that should have killed him 8 times over. He went back to combat when doctors said he could not fight. He led a patrol when he should have been recovering on a hospital ship. That stubbornness saved lives. That stubbornness also cost him his own. There is one final detail that most people do not know. The Medal of Honor citation for Tony Stein mentions his personally improvised aircraft-type weapon. It does not explain what that weapon was or how it was built. For decades, the Stinger existed only in the memories of Marines who saw it in action, and in scattered references in personal accounts of the battle. The full story was not documented until historians began interviewing Iwo Jima veterans in the 1980s. By then, Grevich was dead. Most of the Marines who saw the Stinger in action were dead. The weapons themselves had vanished. What remained were stories. Stories of a screaming gun that sounded like tearing canvas. Stories of a barefoot Marine who charged pillboxes alone. Stories of an improvised weapon that changed the mathematics of the most brutal battle in Marine Corps history. USS Stein, a Knox-class frigate, was commissioned in 1972. It served until 1992. During those 20 years, it carried the name of a 23-year-old corporal who never saw the ocean from the deck of a warship. A building at Camp Pendleton bears his name. His body was returned to Dayton in 1948 and reinterred at Calvary Cemetery a week before Christmas. The grave marker lists his name, his dates, his rank. It does not mention the Stinger. It does not mention the 8 trips across the beach. It does not mention the 20 Japanese soldiers or the 8 wounded Marines he carried to safety. It just says, Medal of Honor. Sometimes that is enough. From a tool and die maker who dropped out of school at 14 to help his family survive, to a Marine who built an impossible weapon from aircraft parts and scrap metal, to a Medal of Honor recipient who gave his life leading men into combat. Tony Stein proved that innovation does not require permission. It requires vision. It requires stubbornness. It requires the absolute refusal to accept that good men should die because the right solution does not officially exist. The Stinger saved lives on Iwo Jima. The principle behind it saves lives today in every squad automatic weapon carried by American soldiers. And the story of how it came to exist reminds us that the most important innovations often come from the people closest to the problem, not the people with the most authority. Tony Stein was the only Jewish Marine to receive the Medal of Honor at Iwo Jima. The son of immigrants, a factory worker, a man who learned to shape metal before he learned to shave. The skills that made him a hero were not military skills, they were industrial skills. The same hands that machined aircraft parts at Patterson Field machined the trigger mechanism of the Stinger. The same eyes that read blueprints read the terrain on Beach Green 1. He did not wait for the military to solve the firepower problem. He solved it himself. And because he did, Marines who should have died on that volcanic beach lived to go home to their families. If you know another story of battlefield innovation that changed history, share it in the comments. This is just one of hundreds of unauthorized modifications, improvised weapons, and unofficial solutions that shaped the outcome of World War II. Subscribe to discover more stories that the official histories forgot to tell. Because sometimes the most important chapters of history are written not by generals and admirals, but by corporals and sergeants who refuse to accept that the impossible was actually impossible. Tony Stein died at 23, carrying a weapon that never officially existed. 80 years later, we are still telling his story. That is the power of one man who decided that saving his fellow Marines mattered more than following regulations. That is the legacy of the Stinger. That is the legend of Beach Green 1.